Blaustoise, can you explain the hardcore server? What does that entail? My understanding of the hardcore server is a much typically just way higher consequence, and it's not so much that it's more realistic, it's just that the consequences are way higher, and it's going for more of a like maybe it is more of like a realistic vibe, but the sense I get is way higher consequences, typically the same sorts of things. A lot of this, not like some crazy, oh, there's all these new mechanics, new stuff like that, but although in this video, Coil even says there's new heists, which is sick, but I think it's kind of a different vibe of the server, that it's less like, hey, this is like over the top GTA, much more like, hey, super RP based, story based, heavy consequence, less SBS, kind of stuff like that. For instance, like going, they might even have perma rules for all we know. They might say, hey, like your character, it can be permed in these situations where you will just have to perma your character. Even if there's not forced permas, they might have things where it's like, hey, if you get injured in this way, this way, this way, your character is ICU'd for 1 day, 3 days. You know, removing Benny, like actually removing Benny's is an interesting one where it's like, yeah, you could be forced to ICU and forced to jail time. I wonder if it's almost, and I don't know what Coil's expectation, are they ending this server to create hardcore, or will they keep the 3.0 server and also have the hardcore server? They aren't sure, because you almost there's almost something where it's like you want to be playing the hardcore and it's like, oh bam, I got hit with really hard consequences. I feel like he's debating that right now. I think there's pros and cons. There's always the con of like splitting the server, like we saw when a lot of people went and played public, and then that like degraded whitelist because a lot of people were on public when X was on public and everyone went to play with X. On the other hand though, it's like if you have this server with crazy high consequences, people would be willing to be like, hey, like, yeah, my character did some shit and I went to the character went to jail for like a week, you know, what would be 7 years in game, but like literally the character's in jail for a week. Effectively like a week-long ban on that character. I feel like people could stomach that a lot more if they'd be like, oh, well, then I'm going to go play on the normal 3.0 server during that time, right? That being said, another way to sort of, now if they did away with 3.0 and just had hardcore, what they could also do is force people to have like 3 characters minimum, like, and they trust that everyone who's RPing on hardcore is doing very serious and good RP, so that if one of your characters does get extremely injured, goes to jail, it's like expected that you then go and RP on another character, because you can't really expect people to RP jail for 7 days. You can't expect them to RP ICU for 7 days, you know?
Be new heists and all that sort of shit. Some of the jobs obviously will stay the same, like tow truck, taxi, shit like that. But there'll be new civil jobs and shit too. Yeah, it is like a 3.99 in a way, because it's a lot of testing for 4.0.
Oh, that's a good way of saying it. 3.99. So it's like so it is a wipe. And they're testing out a bunch of features for 4.0.
I'm not sure what we're gonna do with the hardcore server in terms of like completely different server, only one server, 2 servers, what we're gonna do. But I know there's a lot of people that have left Nopixel that are interested in hardcore. So either way, it's going to be the priority, and we'll see what happens. Like, you know, I'm not fucking dumb. If it doesn't work, we go with what works. I'm not trying to fucking, you know, get rid of this server if this is the server people want to play on. You know, maybe it's just a fucking pipe dream. People want this hardcore shit. They'll go play and be like, maybe it's not as fun as we thought. Then we can loosen up, but we'll see.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm really excited for we already watched this close, but the only problem is I heard Red Dead Redemption isn't happening though. I heard Red Dead Redemption isn't happening.